Hi guys, Andrew Hutchinson here, and in today's video for my channel, The Book Hutch, I'm going to be talking about building and maintaining a library website. Now, this video automatically is going to be a little bit more focused because there's probably not many librarians who specifically work on the websites at their libraries out there who might find this video, but I still think that even if you're not a librarian and you have a website of your own, either for a business that you maintain, or maybe it's a personal website like a blog, or you're an author and you have an author website, I think I can still provide some tips that I have learned since I'm the person who keeps up our library's website. And so I've been doing that for about a year and a half, and I didn't know anything about maintaining a website at all. Basically, the closest I had ever come to any form of coding or anything like that was when I had a MySpace when I was in high school. So that kind of dates me a little bit, when I had to go and change my background and upgrade my music playlist and put the, about me and change it around, even though I don't think anyone was really looking at my MySpace, but whatever. So anyway, in this video, I'm going to provide 4 tips, which I have arranged into abbreviation called AAOC, and we'll go over what each letter means, but hopefully those 4 tips are able to help you in terms of understanding what, especially on the user side, helps in terms of using whatever website you're trying to maintain. A little bit more background on me and my work. So again, before I worked at a library, I had done a little bit, I guess, with MySpace. And then when I was a teacher, I had a classroom website, but it was very regimented by the district I worked in. And there was nothing I could play around a lot with. All my pages were set on terms of what I could put where. So that I kept up with that. I posted a lot of my assignments online. I used Google Classroom, and at some point I'm going to do sort of a video about Google, and so I can introduce more of those concepts because I really like using Google for many things. I do at my library quite a bit, but when I started my library, I had never actually been put in charge of a website before, and so we use WordPress to keep our website going, and I had never used WordPress before. And we also have on our front screen sort of these banners that revolve every couple seconds with information about things we have going on at our library. And for those, we use Canva, and I'd never used Canva either. So I had to learn 2 programs pretty quickly that I never had used so that I could learn how to manipulate the website for whatever we wanted to do. I had used our website actually a couple times before I even worked at the library I work at, just as a user. And though the website had a lot of great qualities to it, I was a little bit frustrated on a few fronts. I couldn't really find the library catalog very easily. I had to hunt for it when I was trying to think about getting a job there. And I actually talk about how I got a job there in a video I posted, which was my story. It's one of the first videos that I did, if you want to go watch that. But I actually called and I asked about employment specifically because I couldn't find whether or not there was a job posting, or I couldn't find an employee application on the website. So there were just a few things like that that I thought, I wonder if I got the job here, if I could make that suggestion or those suggestions to put those things on the website. And so I got hired, and about 2 weeks in, a full-time person left, and so I went from part-time to full-time. And part of that was, all right, Andrew, you're going to be in charge of the website. And the woman who left taught me a lot. She left me a folder of all sorts of information on how to do things. So I at least knew how to do the basics, how to change pages, how to save stuff, which that was very, very nice. Another really great resource I have is that our website, the domain is housed by the Colorado State Library, which is an online library. And as part of them doing that, they have a librarian, his name is Kieran, and I hope he doesn't mind me shouting him out, but I just love him. He is so nice. And every time I have any question about if I want to do something, I email him, he gets back to me right away. And what's really cool is he'll film himself on a screencast doing what, if like I want to add a button somewhere, he'll show himself adding it, and then he'll sort of do that so that then I know how to do it. Or if I forget, one day I could go back to his screencast and watch it. And so he's just such a helpful resource. So if for whatever reason, Kieran, if you end up watching this, I tell you all the time in the emails I send you, you're a rock star. But so those are some resources that I had, but there was really quite a bit of information that I needed to learn and that I've learned over this year and a half of maintaining the website because I've changed it quite a bit. And this is where we're going to get into our abbreviations. So out of AAOC, the first A that I want to talk about, and I'm going to just bring my notes over here, is called aesthetic. So really, the first and foremost thing to keep in mind when you're looking at your library's website and wondering about changing it or anything is, what does it look like? When you click on it and it comes up for yourself or a library patron or someone who's never been to your library before, how does it look? Does it look nice? Is it clean? Is it crisp? Or is all of your information scattered all over the place? Is the font pretty standardized, or some of it small and some of it big? And I think another really great thing to do, and I'm going to keep bringing this up throughout this video, is ask people. So go to your patrons, go to library users, ask your coworkers, and say, what do you think about this? How does this look? Now, you may not have a lot of choice. So for instance, my library template is pretty set. It's what was chosen before I got there, and I have some wiggle room of what I can do to change, but really the main framework of what it looks like is set. And so you, if you're wondering about this, you may not have options, or you might, and you may be able to change a lot. And so before you do anything, at least start gauging what at least does your website look like, and is it nice to look at to the eye? And just also the ease of reading. Are you able to actually see what you want to see? And you might also have to study, ask people, when you look at this page, where your eyes first go. And you might find out, oh, people are looking at something over here when I want them to immediately look at this. So maybe I move this over here? But again, it's all about appearance, I think, at first, because it's kind of that first impression when people look at your library. What vibe is it giving off? And does it represent your library? I can tell a lot about certain libraries when I click on it that some are very blank, and so maybe they just don't have a lot of online usage, and so they don't need to create a website that's really flashy. Sometimes I go to libraries and the websites are so colorful, and so that tells me a lot about the people who work there, or maybe that community. And so again, you might want to see, is my library giving off the vibe I want it to, based on my community or the people who work there, the people who use it. So that's the first A, is aesthetic, and making changes in terms of aesthetic so that whenever people click on your library, they get the impression of your library that you want them to get. The second A I'm going to talk about is accessibility. So I define that as the ability to find things quickly. And I say quickly because normally when people are using a library website, they're trying to find something and keep moving. A lot of times it's the library catalog. So for instance, like I said, when I first saw my library's website and I was just a user, I couldn't find the catalog very easily. So I brought that up, and actually a couple different patrons brought it up. And so we decided to make a button at the top right of the page that says search our catalog, and you click on it, super easy. But there's also another button on our home screen on a row of tabs, and you could find the catalog there too. So there's two pretty quick ways to find it, and people have been very pleased with that. But before, it was hard for people to find that in an accessibility standpoint, so that was something we needed to change. Again, asking people, what do you need to find on our website quickly? Another thing we asked when I started asking patrons this question is a lot of them said, well, I go to your library to mobile print. I don't have a printer at home, so I send the documents to your guys' printer. I come to your library, I pay you, and I print them out. So the easier to find that, the better. So we made another button at the top left, and it's print from anywhere. That's what it says. And if you click on that, you're able to find our page about printing with all of our information, send your documents to it wirelessly, etc. So the ability for people to find what they are looking for very quickly is important. And another issue we actually realized was someone was using our library and they were married to someone who had moved here from another country. And so it made me realize that if this person wanted to use our library website, wouldn't it be great if we could put it in their native language? And so I, again, emailed my website person, and he got back to me and said, oh, we can do a widget and put a menu near the top and have it drop down with a lot of popular languages that can translate a lot of your website. It won't be perfect, but we can translate a lot of it into another language if someone needed it. And so that's just another accessibility piece that I hadn't thought of before. So is your website, no matter what it's for, accessible to people? Can they find what they're looking for? And also, is it just in one language? Could you give them options to look in other languages if that's something they need? Okay, so we've done AA, now time to move on to O. So O stands for organization. And this is when you've not only figured out, does my library website look nice and does it represent what I want it to? Can people find what they're looking for in terms of menus, etc.? And now organizing. So if I have a drop-down menu, what order am I organizing it? Is it going to be alphabetical? Sometimes that's really nice for people. Or is it going to be based on use? So I use Google Analytics, and it will tell me what pages get the most hits, and so that informs a lot of my decision making about where I put certain pages on menus, because I know more and more people are looking for program descriptions and maybe not as much about looking at our library's board minutes from our last board meeting. So maybe I can put the board stuff a little further down. Granted, sometimes you might say, oh, no one's clicking on this, can they find it? And then moving it higher and seeing if the clicks go up or down. That takes a lot of extra work, but sometimes it is really nice to have that data because you want to know, again, what people are looking for and how quickly can they find it. So organizing is huge. And I would say, again, ask people, what do you think is best? A lot of times your director will give you some good pointers, other coworkers, and then of course, the people who use it the most, your patrons, and say, what do you want to find most? And do you have any suggestions? And sometimes they give you really helpful tidbits. And so definitely take as much feedback as you can get. And play around with it. So sometimes it takes a lot of reorganizing. The one thing I will say is I would not try to change too much too quickly. So I really have added a lot to my library website, which I'll kind of get into the next and last thing I'm going to talk about. But basically, you'll want to say, okay, if people have been using this website for a while, I don't want to rip the rug out from under them and suddenly make it super different, because then they're going to be kind of lost. So maybe making these changes a week at a time or even a month at a time. And sometimes you might say, oh, I want to change more now. But again, you don't want to throw people off too much. Let it breathe and sort of just naturally evolve over time. Okay, so we've done aesthetic, accessibility, organization, and now time for the C, which actually stands for two different C's, both content and calendar. So I'll actually go into calendar first. So one of the huge assets to a library, especially their library's website, is the calendar page, because we have events going on every single day. And so how can people find the calendar? Is it easy enough to find? And also, is it readable? I've gone to a number of different library websites and I've been shocked by the fact that their calendars are so small and I could barely read the text of what event is going on a given day. And then when I click on it, it doesn't tell me anything about that event. It might just say like author visit Friday afternoon at 3. And I have so many questions. And so maybe I'll have to go look in their newsletter, or I'll have to go scan a program page to find that information. But it shocks me at how many calendars are so small, because I feel like people, especially at our library, use our calendar all the time. So our calendar is set up in big blocks. They have different colors for the different type of events, which is really nice. And when people click on that event, it tells them the time, it tells them the program description. We could put PDFs on there of anything like a supply list if they need to bring it for an art class. And so a lot of that we've sort of streamlined to make it a lot easier for them to find information. So I think a calendar piece is huge. Again, you may not be able to control all of your calendar, but if you can, maybe look at it and again ask some users, can you read this? The reason too I bring up a lot of text size is a lot of older people, it's hard for them to see. And so if they're trying to navigate your website and they can't see anything, it's going to be really hard for them to use it. And so I've learned to make the text big, not too big that it's, whoa, but big enough that I think a lot of people can see it. So definitely looking at your calendar, because that is just so, so important. And also keeping it up to date. I normally am about 3 months out with putting events on there. And sometimes they change and move around, and sometimes you'll forget something, and so someone will call and say, don't you have an event Friday? It's not on there, and you'll have to put it on there real quick, but maintaining the calendar is super important. Now, the other part of the C at the AAOC is content. And really, bottom line is, what does your library need to have, and what do you want to have? So I say what you need to have because obviously you need information on your programming, and a great way to do that too is to also have a newsletter and ways to find the newsletter on the website. Most libraries have monthly newsletters. So the content of what's going on at your library every month, that could be the newsletter or your calendar, program descriptions and making that up to date. So what programs do you have for adults, for teens, for kids, and where can they find that? And is that information easily understandable? For a while, we had printable forms if people wanted to suggest a purchase for our library for material like a book or DVD, or if they wanted to request an interlibrary loan, and we weren't as a part of our bigger consortium now where people can really request stuff on their own accounts through the catalog and get things sent to the library. So really the only way a while ago we were able to get books was interlibrary loan, and we still do. But same thing, it was a paper form, you had to fill it at the desk. So I, as a millennial, went, okay, we need to get some Google Forms here. So we created just an e-form. They go on and they can suggest a purchase or request a book for interlibrary loan and send it electronically, and it just emails that to us. Same thing with a feedback form, getting a way that people can comment on you or your website and send that to you electronically. So again, making that just user interface so much easier. Also, in terms of content, what I think is super important is a community page. And so when I inherited my website, what I did is what I did a lot of when I was a school teacher, which is I went to a lot of other teacher websites, not only in my school district, but also around the country. And I looked at what teachers had on their own websites that I really liked. And also what they were doing in their classroom. Now, I don't advocate for being a direct thief and just taking stuff and using it as your own, but you can be inspired by what other people are doing. So I went and I was looking around at local library websites, those in the state of Colorado as well as nationally. This is super dorky of me, but sometimes I'll just pick a city and Google, St. Cloud, Minnesota library website and just go to it and see what theirs looks like. And so I go all around the country just because I want to see what a lot of people are doing. And a lot of great websites I noticed had a page that had a lot of community resource links. So to their Chamber of Commerce, their local hotels, their local medical professionals, sightseeing areas nearby. And so I added a page on our website that had all of that for our local area. I noticed a lot of people come in for employment help, like resumes and cover letters. So I made an employment help page with those things on there so people can look on there. Also with local job postings, and I keep that updated pretty frequently. I put stuff in there for people trying to learn more things about technology, like typing practice websites. On the kids pages, I put stuff like Cool Math, which is a website where they can go do math on their own time, or Hour of Coding, where kids can learn to code a lot on their own. And so the content, not only locally, but also figuring out what your users could also need to help them. And so, again, that'll take playing around a lot, but really just knowing what your library website is being used for. And so people are normally coming there to find information via the catalog about you or about the community. And so if you have all those things represented, I think your library website is going to be a pretty amazing success. And again, look at what other people are doing and be inspired by them. And maybe they have a really great description of a program that you guys also have. Email them and say, can I borrow this description? I think it's fantastic. They might say no, but I would do that just before directly taking something, but at least going, oh, I like that, and then pulling all of those pieces together. So I can continue going on, but this video is a bit rambly, I've noticed, and also I think I got my major points across. So whether or not you work on a library website or you have your own website, I think aesthetic, accessibility, organization, and then managing your content and your calendar are all super important. And again, it depends on what program you use, how much freedom you have, and the feedback you're going to get. But I think as long as you are working as best you can, asking questions, getting feedback, and being inspired by other people, as well as innovating yourself, I think your library website is going to be a great success, and I wish you nothing but luck. So I hope this video worked out well. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I will keep posting other library videos in the future. I also have book reviews that I keep posting as well. So if you're new to this channel, welcome. If you're returning, thank you so much for watching this video as well. And feel free to comment down below if you have ever worked on a website of any kind and any advice you might have, or especially too if you're a librarian who's worked on a website, and share your thoughts and opinions as well. So anyways, thank you so much. Stay happy, stay healthy, and I will see you all later. Bye.